Esther included, who is standing in the attitude of poking around at the problem, immediately feels the discord of being a vibrational match to the problem rather than to the solution. And then something interesting kicks in for most of you. Because you now don't feel good, it feels like you should explain why you don't feel good and how bad it is that you don't feel good and whose fault it is that you don't feel good. In other words, you begin to justify your discordant relationship with who you are by hammering longer at what's wrong with this. Esther, over the years, has said things to us such as, well, it's true, as if that is any kind of criteria to use. In other words, it's true, this thing I'm using to make myself miserable and keep myself from the solution that I have already created. And we say, no one is questioning the truth of these things because you can't focus upon anything for very long without making it true. That's a terrible criteria. It's true. It's true, and so I focus on it. We say, cancer's true. Do you want some? Plundering, rapes, murder, all true. You want some of that? If you focus upon those things just because they are true, you open yourself to all kinds of things unwanted as well as wanted. We think a different criteria is in order. So rather than saying it's true, why not ask yourself, how does it feel? How does it feel? Because sometimes you can poke around on what you consider to be a problem and it feels interesting. And we want to say to you, we've never said it to you before, that if you are poking in the direction of what feels like a problem and it feels interesting, you're still in the vortex. In other words, if it still feels interesting, you are not separating yourself from who you are. You're working the contrast in a productive way from inside the vortex, because in every particle of the universe, even where we stand in non-physical, there is wanted and unwanted. The difference between where we stand is that the differentiation between our wanted and our unwanted is so slight you could not from your physical platform even perceive it. So really, what we're wanting you to sort of come to an awareness of today, in the time that we are together, is how much grief am I willing to endure for the sake of expansion? And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say none. Because you don't have to separate yourself from who you really are and what you want so long that you deprive yourself of the energy of alignment for so long that you are in grief or fear or despair. That's way, way, way overkill for what you intended when you decided to come forth and be a creator in this physical body. Are you understanding what we're getting at? Some of you have been listening to us for a while, and we want to say to you that we think that you have done enough poking around in the contrast of your life experience to keep yourself happily busy in the manifestation for 20 or 30 lifetimes. We really do not think that you really owe anything to anybody and that you need to torture yourself into expansion. But we also want to say to you that we are not ready to state, nor will we ever be ready to state, that negative emotion is a bad thing, because it isn't. Negative emotion is your guidance system that lets you know that you are in this moment deviating from what? Deviating from the source? Yeah. Deviating from what you want? Yeah. Deviating from the solution while you cling to the problem? Yes. Deviating from the answer while you ramp up the question more? Yes. But the true deviation that we want you to be aware of is deviating from the expanded version of you. It's like life has caused you to vibrationally move forward into this vortex, and we'll talk more about what this vortex thing is, into this vortex. But you, for reasons of your own, and usually only intimately known by you, for reasons of your own, you are choosing to hold yourself back from the expanded version of you. And we want to proclaim in a way that you will always remember that every negative emotion that you feel, no matter how great or slight it seems in the moment that you are feeling it, every negative emotion means the same thing. You expanded, but you and your physical body aren't going with the expansion, not right now anyway. We're going to talk to you briefly here about who you are, the origin of that which you see in your physical body. Your origin is vibration. You came into this time-space reality from non-physical. Now that's easy for you to figure out because you've been thinking about dead or alive. You've been thinking about heaven. You've been thinking about non-physical. And we want you to understand that you are always consciousness, which means you are an eternal being. And that non-physical consciousness existed long before the consciousness of you in this personality that you know as you. But here's the thing that most humans don't remember. Even after a part of the consciousness that was you before your birth into this body, even before that consciousness took form and shape in this physical body, that non-physical energy understood why you were coming forth, who you were, who you are. That non-physical energy understood that there is no separation, no way of separating the non-physical from the physical. So the non-physical vantage point that you held before you decided to come into this body understood that in your body you would be an extension of this source energy. An extension, not an either or, an extension. You understood that a part of your consciousness would be present in the personality that you know as you, but the larger part of that consciousness would remain non-physically focused. You knew that non-physically you would project part of that awareness forward, just like here you are in this room today, but it surely does not represent all that you are. You're here attending a seminar, but you are so much more in this physical personality. And so as you are here in this physical body, you are so much more also. Now that you are here in this physical body, you have, if you will consciously think about it, a relationship that is perceivable between the physical aspect of you and the non-physical aspect of you. And the reason you can perceive these two vibrational attitudes is because you have emotions that indicate your relationship between you and you. Now, we talk about you and you because we want you to understand who you really are. But our ultimate desire is that you will come, even as a result of the time that we spend together here today, to understand that you and you are you, and that there is no reason to separate the non-physical you from the physical you. In fact, the non-physical you never separates you from you. So here you are in this physical body. And let's say you're banging around in some contrast. And as you're living that contrast, you wisely deduct or conclude that there is an unwanted aspect to what you are perceiving. And in the moment that you focus your attention upon what is not wanted, you also simultaneously offer a vibrational rocket that is focused upon what you do want. In other words, you cannot for a moment poke around at a problem, bringing the problem into greater and greater focus. You know how it is. The more you talk about it, the more information you get about it. The bigger it gets, the easier it is to see, the more others join you. In other words, you poke around at a problem, it is going to expand. Law of attraction says that it must. But the good news is, at the same time this problem is expanding, an equivalent solution is expanding too. But you can't set your radio dial frequency to the problem and the solution at the same time. So while your dial's set on the problem, you are expanding the universe, because the more you know what you don't want, the more what you do want is formed. That's why wellness expands because of attention to illness. That's why economy expands because of attention to shortage. In other words, you just can't be part of the problem without being part of the solution at the same time. The evolution of all species is about this other side of the wave. The wave, did you hear us? Every particle of the universe contains within it wanted and unwanted, equal parts of it. So the more you focus, the more you cause an expansion of the universe. Now, the important thing for you to understand is that when you're focused upon the problem, and of course you are not always focused upon the problem, but let's say you're doing it now, as you're focused upon the problem and the solution is becoming, the non-physical part of you is standing there with the solution. And we are saying that that solution that is now known by the larger part of you is inside this vortex where well-being is gathered, where wanting is gathered, where expansion is understood. So what we're saying to you in a little different words than you've heard us offer to you before is that while you sift through the details of your time-space reality, you cause an expansion of the universe, and the non-physical part of you takes the expansion that you've carved out and holds it steady as the bouncing off place for new ones coming in, and as a sort of guiding light for you to tune your signal to. And the way you tune your signal to it is by feeling for it. So, for example, let's say that you don't have enough money, your bills are piling up, you're really feeling worried, which is your emotional indicator that you're focused differently than the source within you is focused. But let's say, and it is perfectly logical, you're experiencing a financial shortage and you are worried. So that's how you're standing in your physical body. Well, every time you focus upon this shortage, this problem of shortage, you are creating an equivalent solution. And your inner being is holding steady to the vibration of the solution. If we were talking about physical well-being, when your physical body is sick, you create a vibrational wellness that is more than was there before you got sick. In the same way that when you are experiencing exaggerated shortage, you're creating a vibrational equivalent of abundance that is more than it was before you experienced your shortage. So the problem actually, which as it came into focus, actually caused you to bring into focus an equivalent solution to which you do not have access while you are still worried. Your worry, in fact, is your emotional indicator that lets you know you are doing the problem part of the equation while the source within you is doing the solution part of the equation, but you, in your physical form, cannot have access to the solution as long as the problem is what is most active in your vibration. Many people say, well, then show me the money. Inner being, smarty pants that you are, standing over there with all of my abundance, fork it over. Give me the abundance, and when I see it, I will feel better. And we say, of course you would feel better if you could see the solution to your problem, but you have to find the solution to your problem vibrationally before it can manifest. You have to withdraw your attention from the problem before the solution can come into view. So you have something to think about all day, every day. Esther has really been pondering this recently. How much attention to the problem does this particular creative experience deserve? Because there is a tipping point. In other words, of course, poking around on the problem, living life, you came to do that. You came to expand the universe by knowing what you don't want and knowing what you do want. But there is a time, and all of you have to decide when it is for you, that you're willing to say, all right, I've poked around at this problem significantly enough to create a really good solution. Now I think I'll tune myself to the solution rather than to the problem. And the answer to when that is simply this: how much discomfort am I willing to endure before I let go of the problem and let the solution show itself to me? Really, that's the only thing that makes the difference.